To thank you for honoring our invite and for showing up promptly. Thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying the breakfast. I'd like to start by talking about the topic that is going to be presented. The topic that's going to be presented is something that's very key to the effective running of our industry, and that's corporate governance. The good thing is that everyone in this room is involved in corporate governance. In a landscape where things are quickly changing, and we're hearing things about accountability, transparency, and also issues regarding confidentiality and how businesses are being run. Corporate governance is that glue, that important aspect that helps direct the businesses in the right direction. So this is something that is very key to the industry. It's something that in our regulations has been picked out as what we're going to present today. So I hope that we shall have questions on this. We expect a lot of engagement in the Q&A session. And at this point, we should be about to start. As I speak about corporate governance is enshrined within our regulations, within the licensing and governance regulations, that is. And for the past few years, it's something that we've been grappling to iron out with the industry. So in the presentation, you're going to get to see the status, how you've been performing, whether it is the insurance companies, whether it's the brokers. That is what is going to be presented. So I look forward to your engagement. I look forward actually for learning points, because at the end of this, you should leave with something. Yeah, you should be able to peg yourselves and say, okay, we are at 100% in terms of how we're meeting regulations. But then the question becomes, how effectively are we steering our organizations? Yeah. So I would like, at this juncture, to invite our presenter. It is an honor and a privilege for me. It is one of the few times that I get this opportunity. And our presenter today is our very own, the Chief Executive Officer of the IRA. So Alhaj Ibrahim Kadunabi Lubega. You're welcome. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome you to this CEO breakfast meeting. As it is our tradition, by 8, we are starting. And today, I decided not to do the usual, to come in a little earlier, to see what happens before I join. And now, I also realized that because I came earlier, I greeted a few people, then I sat. Now, those who came after me decided to sit this side. They were fearing to cross. So in my mind, I was thinking, now, these people, do they think that I'm a headmaster? I'm a teacher who canes people? Then they didn't want to cross over. I also realized the people who wants to make money out of the situation. Now, there was one man called Paul Kavuma. He was mobilizing money. Now, do you want to greet the CEO? Whoever was coming to me, he had to pay him. And those who didn't pay, he came to me and convinced me that it is me who told them to come and greet you. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, once again. And I want to say that at least we now take longer to meet. So, when we meet in environments like this, when we are not demanding anything from you, but just telling you what we expect from you, it is really a good moment. And I want to thank you for whatever you are doing to ensure that the industry keeps moving. I want to tell you that we ought to have released the 2022 performance, but there is about one thing which is holding us. As soon as it is done, we'll be informing the industry how actually you perform. And this will be according to the audited accounts. Today, we are here to talk about the corporate governance. You definitely know why we are talking about corporate governance. And we already stated earlier that when we move to the next way we are going to regulate, it is you people who are going to manage your companies. It is the boards which are going to manage the companies. It is those organs of your companies which will make decisions moving forward. And that's why we are here today to talk about corporate governance. So, I'm telling you the obvious. Hey, now what is happening? I'm telling you the obvious of our mission, vision, and core values. These are what we stand for. Now, I don't know what you people in IT are doing. And I also think that I'm like a teacher, because when someone does something wrong, I want to give him his punishment there and then, and we proceed. So the mission, you already know because we have shared with you. The vision is there, and the core values are those critical three. That's what we stand for, and that's what we think we should be looked at and judged for. These ones we do to make sure that all of us move in the same direction and we all move together. We must be accountable, and we must stand here for a reason. We shouldn't be looking at the insurance industry the same way it was, and we are comfortable because the Insurance Regulatory Authority is a government entity, and you are giving us money by is it by coercion or by, I don't know whether you are willing, but all the same we are getting the money from you, and we are paid. So when we continue, without changing and developing the industry, then we'll have a challenge. Then the changing regulatory landscape focuses on the corporate governance. And that's why we are here to talk about it. I want to say, according to the IAIS, the ICP Insurance Core Principle, specifically 18, dictates that the supervisor should require the insurance intermediaries to apply appropriate corporate governance. And this is the same for also the insurance companies, because they are also required to do the corporate governance according to the ICPs. You see ICP 7 also, by and large, requires us to have the corporate governance, and also to see that we adequately recognize and protect the interests of the policyholders. All this is done to ensure that when we do that business, all of you will be able to do your business, because the industry, people will have confidence in the industry. They will know there is someone who looks after the industry, and they will give you more money. And when they give you more money, you can invest. The taxman will be happy. The regulator will be happy. Your shareholders will be happy. You yourselves as employees will be happy. And other stakeholders who benefit from what we do will also be happy. So, how are we moving in this journey? You may remember that in August 2020, very many regulations were signed off by the minister. And these regulations dictated how we should be looking at the next step. You may also know that in 2020, December, we issued the guidance on the licensing and corporate governance. And this dictated how we should be looking at what is going to happen, when it should happen, and really making sure that we are clear on expectations from each one of us. You also noted that in 2021, and I am very much on the other side, so the people this side will not give me votes. So 2021, you also saw that the intermediaries regulations were also signed off by the minister. And this dictated what we should expect for those of you who are playing in the intermediaries field. What happened and what was being going on was that these regulations were supposed really to start immediately. But for one reason or the other, we couldn't start immediately. We had to give some time for people to prepare and see that we have a very good way of moving forward. So in December, we gave an extension on the deadline, December last year. Now, after those extensions and whatever, then we must look at implementing the regulations, because they do fundamental issues. They tell us what are the requirements as we do our business. They also tell us the control functions. What are they for each of our companies? And then we put them in place, and we have a better way of doing our business. In Regulation 14, for the insurers, HMOs, and reinsurers, we are looking at a minimum of 5 directors, and half of them must be resident in Uganda. And we talked about why we require them to be in Uganda. These discussions we have had with you when we are developing these regulations. And a minimum of 5. Why 5? We also talked of more than half being non-executive, because we are seeing shareholders are the directors, so decisions were being made skewed in one direction. So when you have more than half as non-executive, many of the decisions which are made are balanced. They look at the shareholders, but also other stakeholders, because it is important, really. Then we also have that the board chair must be an independent chairperson. Here we had so many struggles. Those of you who can remember, very many people used to be the shareholders and they are the chairs of the board. So some of the arguments were that we are chasing away the shareholders from managing their money and many other things. But our conviction was, whoever you appoint as independent will have your interests and other stakeholders' interests. So for you, you are a very, very important person. Just play other roles and leave these workers to work for you. The good thing is that really, that one we are moving on well. The Regulation 16 was formulating those committees: the Audit Committee, Risk Management Committee, Remunerations Committee, and an Investment Committee. Because of majorly what we do, many of the entities which are doing insurance, reinsurance, and HMOs, these are a must-have. This is what we do, and we need to have a committee attached to your company doing that. And yes, we have had and seen some challenges of what happens with some companies, but many companies have done a good job to ensure that is all those committees are in place. Why we are saying we need them is because of the obvious reasons that when we have independent directors, we'll ensure that we have the boards are strong. They should be independent-minded, and they should make the decisions in the best interest of all stakeholders. Shouldn't be skewed to the shareholders, neither should it be skewed to the policyholders or skewed to the employees. That's why we are saying that it is critical that we have these boards, the committees, and indeed the management made stronger. They also help us in coming up with better decision making because of the reasons I have already stated, and better risk management within our businesses. And indeed, the reporting to what comes to us is made better and easier when you have some minds which are independent, and even the way we look at what happens is better. We have also seen, or we are convinced, that we should be having improved market conduct. As you know, all of us suffered when everybody at one time was talking of insurance as whatever names they used to call us. So now we are fighting to move from a ditch which might have been 15 feet down or more than 15 feet, trying to climb up. And at the end, we see light. Where we are now, at least each one of you can be convinced that we are moving in the right direction. And this is one of the reasons why we thought that corporate governance was one area which needed to be emphasized so that we move to the promised land. What is happening regarding these requirements? We have seen that all companies have complied with the requirement of a minimum of 5 directors. And this was achieved by December 2022. So we need to clap for ourselves, yes. And here, I try to give you an analysis of how this was happening, and also give you how we moved over the period for non-life companies, the HMOs, the life companies, the reinsurers, and the overall total. So in here we pick some lessons of how each category was responding, or how fast it took each category to achieve this requirement. And it is indeed something which our supervision department, our legal department, and all other departments of IRA are looking at, also to inform our decisions moving forward. The other one is that all players complied with the 50% directors being non-executive. We also need to clap for ourselves. Because it is really very important in decision making. And for you who are the CEOs, you may realize that maybe some decisions since this came up are done in a better way. But let us know if you think there are things which we need to tighten on. Maybe not loosening, but tightening. And here again, we gave you how this was achieved over time. The other issue is that all players now you can imagine, as they work on their system, I don't know what they did. Marion gave me my copy. Proceed. Okay, the other issue which we may need to look at was that the issue of directors being resident. And I want to say that that was also achieved. So at least 50% of the directors are resident in Uganda, which means we are doing well on that front also. And directors being resident in Uganda is indeed intended, as you may recall, that people must appreciate what happens here. When they are making decisions, they must know where they are playing and what dictates it and why they should make this decision and not the other decision. That's why people should be resident in Uganda. And it is something which is good, and we are seeing it doing better for all of us to move forward. The other one is on the issue of board committee compliance. There, we have 84%. Now, this is where we need to see that we will have to agree how to move forward. Because for us, and maybe the Evelyn's time, for those of us who are old enough, when you got 80, it used to be the equivalent of a D1 now. But I had issues with my son. He got 91, and they had put a D2. So I was telling him they made a mistake. And he told me, no, Daddy, you must get 95 in order to get a D1. That is exactly the same measure we are using at IRA. Actually, for us, we are using 100%. as the D1. When you do not have a D1, and we have pass or fail, we don't have in between. Now 84. You see how we are moving. The non-life, as at March 2023, is at 92. HMOs at 50. Life companies, 69. It is only reinsurers who we need to clap for. They are at 100%. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is you, the CEOs, who will take to task when things are not moving well. It is you, the CEOs, who must tell the board what has to be done and how fast it has to be done. You also know the deadlines we gave. And as I said, we are not extending the deadlines. So let's change and let's complete this exercise. And we have the committees fully complying. Then the other one is independent board chairpersons. The independent board chairperson, we all meet that where we stand now. So we pass and we clap for ourselves because we are doing well at that front. And please, let's keep it, let's not go back to where we started. And also we have some lessons of how this has been done. And here, the other lesson you will see that you can see for non-life, they hit 100 in November 2022, but in November 2022, they hit 100. In December, they went back to 95. So these are instances where someone has been a board chair, maybe he leaves, and you take some time to replace. Let's make sure that the turnaround time is made much faster so that we do not have any lag, because that moving forward may not be accepted. Then the other one is average compliance of over 50% of board members being independent. You can see this stands at 79. And 79, you know the challenges with it. And when you examine the different categories, you see non-life stands at 76. The HMOs are standing at 100. The life are standing at 75. So by and large, life and non-life are tying failure in this line. And HMOs and reinsurers deserve a clap because they are getting the D1, which we want. So, ladies and gentlemen, we need to work on this so that we are where we should be earlier. Then, on the control functions, quickly, you can see that internal audit and actuarial function have the lowest compliance level of 76. And we are giving you the different areas for life, non-life, reinsurers, and HMOs. This is how we stand now. And really, we need to do something very serious or fundamental if we are to move from the 76 to 100, because it is only 100 or nothing. And you see that the risk and compliance officer stands at 85. And this is the highest in this line. So, ladies and gentlemen, each one of us at least knows how does your company perform on this. So it is contributing to what we are having here. But as agreed, we should all comply, because the intention is for all of us to have a better industry. If we do not, then we will not move to the next level, as we agreed that we need to change how we do things so that we can improve, and everybody who looks at us with that confidence and can come to buy the policy and is confident that things will be under control. The other issue, now I don't know what your system is doing. The intermediaries regulations set out the corporate governance requirements, the principal officer requirements, and the control functions, and the policies and procedures. And again, for intermediaries, this is how we are performing. 94%. And for reinsurance brokers, we are at 100%. You see, the 100% has been consistent for the Nuru and team. So we need to clap for them. At least they are doing well. But for the insurance brokers, we need also to see that we improve on that. Only 3 insurance brokers, down from 4 do not meet the above requirement. Now only 3. The three directors, the 3 board members, but this is a quick one, really. We should resolve it and move to the next level. The residents, 50% residents, again you see it is the same percentage. And only 2 brokers are the ones which are not meeting the 50% directors. So even these 2 now need to work on it and conclude. And the other 3 in the other category, which we have just finished. Then the principal officer requirement, 94% of the companies are compliant, and this is compared to the 82 which it was in November 2022. So those who are remaining, the 2 who are non-compliant should comply. And for insurance and reinsurance brokers, you see that we have 63. This is a low compliance level for the brokers of all categories. So we must make sure that we work on that. And you see 20 companies are non-compliant. So we must work on that, and the deadline, as you see, is June. Actually, June is next week. So whatever we do, we must be clear, and we don't want people to come and say that IRA is harsh, because this is our job, to ensure that what is stated is implemented. Then the concerns raised and our response have been several. And the issue is that very many insurers have expressed difficulties in putting in place the audit committees. And we requested each one of you who may have any issue to come to us and we discuss what is that issue, so that we can guide you if you need guidance. But to others, when you come to us and say, it is difficult, these things are not possible, then we can also fail to guide or to help you comply. We want to have the discussion to comply. So let's help each other on a case-by-case basis. The other one was on the interpretation of 3 members not being members of the... That just required really explaining to you, which we have done. We expect that shouldn't be a problem to you. You must comply. And the time it takes to replace senior staff, I definitely know the industry has to be, the movements will continue. People moving from this company to the other, from the other to, and that to me is okay. Because first of all, when you work on your staff, you must work on them, train them. You must also work on what will retain them, so that they are moving and they are happy. But even if one is trained in one company and is moving to another, even those of you you didn't train them from the grassroots. So there is no problem. Even those you were trained by someone else, and that's okay. That's the life we live in. The other one was that there are few actuaries and few risk professionals. Yes, we hear you on that, and we definitely know, but we must also see some effort towards rectifying this. And again, because of these reasons, that's why we downgraded the requirements. You may recall that we would have required each one of them to be at associate or fellow level, but we didn't go for that at the beginning for some categories. And we allowed some entities to do the outsourcing. This was intended to ensure that the market can have enough people in the industry who are professional enough. And all the time, there has been extension requiring us to extend to comply with this or the other. But as I told you, in as much as we want to extend, we remember the words which were said by the Attorney General in 2018 when we were at Parliament, and the question was, do you need this act now, or you need it in 5 years? You remember that time there were some provisions we were saying that let them become effective in 5 years. And that's how we lost it. We say we need it now. So now, if you need it now, we cannot put there a provision that it will become effective in 5 years. So now we are also cognizant of the fact that this act came into force in 2018. We must implement it. If we do not implement it, we will not have helped you, neither will we have helped ourselves. So each company, each one of us must ensure that we do what is expected of us soonest to achieve the intended benefits of the Insurance Act 2018. Then the issue of clarifications, mostly on audit committee, is that these people should not come from your regional offices, because by and large, those people are not independent. They are representing maybe the shareholders, and that was never the intention. So let's all move pretty quickly to understand what is required, and we put in place the committee as required. Then the other issue, the authority shall consider full membership of audit committee to mean this. And independent chairperson, really all these we have explained. And at least the 3 people being of high repute, all those we have told you, and we continue to say that if any of you has any clarification you would need, please, you do not need any appointment to walk to us. Just come. And please do not say that I must see Haji. If I don't see Haji, I will not get a reason, a solution. No. Any of my officers is empowered enough to give you the correct information so that we correct what is required. At least the heads of departments are here. They will listen to you. And please, let's come and see that we do that and conclude this discussion. I want to thank you for listening to me, and I want to allow some reasonable time for your comments, and then we get the way forward. Thank you very much. So I don't know whether Kevin wants to come back and take charge of the session.
So thank you very much, CEO. We're moving into the next segment, which is basically Q&A. But before we go there, I forgot, unfortunately, to welcome our online audience. So we are actually virtually live, and this is streaming. So our audience online, you're very welcome. And I also forgot to actually introduce myself. Yeah. So I am Kevin Walunga Makatete. I'm the manager licensing and compliance. So we shall have a microphone moving around. Let me first confirm whether it's ready. Yes, but as we wait for the microphone, I'd just like to maybe highlight some very important and critical things that were presented by our CEO. And even before that, I think he deserves a round of applause. It was really very insightful. Yeah, and it's really good to see the journey we have been on in graphical form and see that we have come from far. 2020 was, most people said it was impossible, but at least we can see that majority of us are at a good percentage. And it's also good to know now that our D1 is 100%. Yeah, so it's not partial, it's 100% compliance. I'd just like to highlight that in the presentation, it was noted that it's critical for us to have stronger boards for the different stakeholders, especially for us, the regulator. And why we have made the decisions around the requirements in the regulations for the board, and it was highlighted very well. And then also the fact that we have a particular position on the common concerns, and you're free to come to our offices in case of anything. So I think the microphone is ready. Yeah, okay, so at this juncture, you're free to ask any questions. We have microphones available. So you can raise your hand and the microphone will come to you. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. And thank you, Alhaj, for the great presentation. And I think also to break down the regulation on corporate governance. First of all, thank you very much for the deadlines you've given us. And I think it's the right direction to see that you deal with a group of people who are running organizations in a very good way of doing business. Now, mine is about two things on the issue of compliance and risk officers, of which now those two roles, people can combine them. And I must say that as Clarkson, we've complied on that. However, I would like to get some clarification because it's a control function. Does this person have to report to the board? Because we're having a few arguments, much as they're independent. Because already we have situations whereby already companies had internal auditors reporting to the board. And then now a principal officer is also reporting to the board. So we're having so many people having independent representation to the board. But we need a clarification whether a compliance and risk officer should report to the board or the CEO, just to clarify, because they're supposed to be independent in doing business. The other one's about committees. There are 5 committees as per the regulations, and they have been broken down according to the standards of the regulator. However, as companies, we already had specific committees that don't go beyond maybe 4, but phrased in a different way. Like we have the HR and Strategy Committee, we have the Risk and Audit Committee, and then we also have the Finance Committee. Now, when you look at the other 4 or 5, other than us, can we play around with the committees we have, but ensure that they comply with what you need within these committees? Because it's creating some level of ambiguity, but just for clarity, so that we don't have so many committees within the board that attend almost the same thing. But if we can prove that the finance committee takes care of maybe the investment part, the part of the audit, would it pass? I think that clarification is also needed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can we have 2 other questions and then we'll handle them at a go?
Good morning and thank you, CEO IRA. I am Proscovia from Probalos Assessors and Adjusters, and whatever I have to ask is on behalf of the assessors, adjusters, and risk managers. My first concern is I've listened carefully, but I've not heard anywhere we assessors are being mentioned. And I don't know whether we are, unfortunately, when you came in, during the exercise that you have just completed, your colleagues came with these questions. Where are your directors? Why are they not 5? Where the auditors are not? Where sometimes you find that in our company we are 2. And now you want us to have all that. So we really need to clearly be also given the corporate governance on how we are supposed to be governed. Otherwise, we are being asked a lot of questions where we are putting not applicable, I don't know, I've never heard of. So that's why even in the insurance week, when we try to participate, you categorized us among the insurers and reinsurers. How do you expect me, a simple person, a single person in my company to compete with the insurers. Maybe that's why we lost our presidents. And we are waiting our presidents for the insurance week. Because we won. We were 1, 2, so we were the best in our category. So what I'm saying is we really need to hear our corporate governance for us as Uruvera. Call them Uruvera. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you, Prosi. Can we have one more question? Okay, maybe we can handle those. I'll hand over to the CEO who will delegate how we'll go through the questions.
I'd like to ask Director Supervision, Mr. Bernard Obel, to answer the question of whether compliance and risk officers do report to management or to the board. The second issue was on whether you can adjust the existing committees whether you can adjust the existing committees to do the roles we expect. Really, it is a decision you need to take. It is up to you. What we do require as per the regulations is stated. Then what happens above that is really a decision for your company. And feel free. If you think they have the requisite qualifications and they will do the job, it's up to you. But for us, we'll audit them. We'll touch them to see whether they comply to the requirements we set out. Then I hear Chala Proskovia and the adjusters, loss assessors, and your concern is a valid one, but the way we had moved, we were looking at those companies which provide a service, which get money to do a service, and that journey has to be touched. You may note that for you, when you moved from these mainstream insurance companies to that line, other than the fees you charge, we do not look much into the other things, like how many people you have, what you do, and many other things. But for a broker who handles money which is not his, we must know. For an HMO who handles money which is not yours, for an insurer who handles money which is not yours, that's how it came to what it is. But I hear you. We may have a discussion. We may have a discussion at our offices, and then we see if really there are issues which we need to do to ensure that we also streamline that line. The other one is the trophies which you claim. At least as a CEO, I can afford to buy one trophy and give to one of you in that category. But moving forward, for each category, we must look at independently so that we do not cause confusion. So Bernard, can you answer the question?
Thank you very much, CEO. The issue of whether the risk compliance or risk officer should report to the board or management, there are two thoughts on this. In other jurisdictions, I can quote one time I visited Kenya Re, and both the internal auditor and the risk officer were reporting directly to the board with a dotted line to the CEO. But in our situation here, we are trying to get out of this business of the compliance officer reporting to the manager, who of course is being reported on, and that can create so many dangers. Even a risk officer is identifying the risks which the company is faced with and should not report to an operational manager. So I think it is safer, it is far much safer for the compliance and risk officers to report to the CEO, because the CEO wants to have an overall view of the organization. But wouldn't also be bad if you came up with a model and said, let the risk and compliance officers report directly to the board. But if they report to the CEO, I think that's also good enough, because it gives that level of independence. Thank you.
So what we are going to do in that line, we must give guidance to the industry according to what we come up with. We are expecting these people to report to who, and we should expect that to be done. And even our team, which these entities, they should find whether that is done or not. Yes.
Okay, thank you for the questions. I think our time is almost, we have time for one question though. Do we have any final questions? Yes, we have one here.
Thanks for allowing me to raise my question. Can we outsource these two functions? Because we are finding it difficult to have qualified actuary and qualified risk professional in this country. Can we outsource this to our regional office for the time till the time we develop this talent in-house?
Okay, I have been advised that you are allowed to outsource the functions, and when a director supervision, if we need to give guidance, if we haven't given it, let's do it so that everybody is clear on what is allowed and what is not allowed, so that we are clear. I want to thank you for coming to this CEO breakfast meeting. May I take this opportunity to inform you that two critical things are going to happen moving forward. I have already instructed our team internally that effective 1st of July, we are not going to accept physical returns, regulatory returns. So everything which must be done must be online. And this is going to help us really to you not to waste the papers, and also getting office assistant to deliver to us, yet we are near each other. And two, it also helps us to get the computations out of whatever you submit pretty quickly. So effective 1st July, that must happen. And if any of us disturb you with you did not submit a physical copy after that date, please, that one report him direct to me. Then we will agree on how we proceed. The other issue is I want to confirm to you that I have already signed a contract with the Visor to install a regulatory software. So we expect by end of this year that we will have the first module. It is going to have 3 modules. So by end of next year, we'll be somewhere. So let's make sure that we prepare, because this means that your manual operations must stop. We must all be linked to the same system and we move in the same direction. I want to thank you very much for coming. I want to wish you the very best in 2023, and let's keep the fire burning. Thank you very much.